Welcome to a new video. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. The first story is called, "Are You Sure?" This took place almost 10 years ago now. I was working in the number portability department for a cellular phone company. One day, a guy calls in, asking to port his landline number to this new cell phone he just bought with us. So far, totally routine. I start moving through this everyday process. To prevent fraud, part of the porting process is the new carrier including some of his old service provider information on our request to his old carrier for the phone number. I start asking for things like his old service provider account number and service address with him, and he gets super evasive. I don't have it with me. I'm not going to be able to get my hands on a bill for a while. Things like this. Again, nothing I don't commonly run into. I offer to call his old company with him to get the pieces of information, and finally, after a couple of more minutes of weird, shady dodging, he gives in and explains to me what's going on. His phone number had been used by him for almost 10 years with a few perks. It was fully functional in their switching system but somehow reserve blocked in their number inventory to prevent the number from being assigned to new customers. And it was invisible to the phone company's main billing system. What this effectively meant for him was unlimited free phone use as long as he kept quiet about the situation. Super sketchy on the moral end, but there it was. And now this guy wants to port the number to his cell phone. I have connections at the landline company and can have it investigated on their side to make it happen. But first, I explain to him that numbers have to be billing active at the old service provider to be transferable to a new company. Due to fraud prevention, they have to match the pieces of information we send them against the account records. Add to this the fact that if the landline company learned about what happened with this number during the process to pull it out of limbo and put it on a billing account, they would likely bill him for a decade of service that he never saw a bill for. Or worse yet, press charges against him. He was effectively knowingly stealing services from them for years by using it but not notifying them about the lack of billing. There is even a simple, winning solution for him, that I offered to him at least 3 times during this conversation. I would give him a new cell phone number, and since his number is fully active in the other carrier's switch, he could just set up switch-based call forwarding to the new cell number using the landline phone. I didn't say the part out loud where the landline company would still never know, but it was very clear he understood the implication. But no, this was not good enough for him. He wants to have that number native on his cell phone. After covering the ground with him a few times about the easy workaround and the likely consequences if he persisted, he finally got testy with me and demanded I start this process, nearly escalating over me. No sir, no need for that. I was just looking out for you and making sure you understood exactly what you were asking for, but you have told me that you do, so let's do this thing. I set his expectations that due to the situation, this was going to take much longer than normal, and he's fine with that. I set up a follow-up schedule with him, let him go, and start calling my friends at the landline company. I explained to them what was going on, and the wheels are set into motion. Over almost the next full month, my contacts at the landline company physically tracked down not only the secret phone number that the system forgot, but they also found history on it in their backup records going back pretty much the whole time. They were happy to do it all since I had explained what happened, and they knew that there were 10 years worth of back services to charge to this guy if they could locate the evidence. Once the number was built onto a billing account over there, I ported it to my company as normal. This took less than a week at that point. I spoke with one of my contacts again a couple of months later on a different matter, and the conversation turned back to this guy again. She couldn't give me exact figures, but she told me that the bill that generated for the landline account wasn't just the 4 or 5 days of service after the account was built that it took to port his number. It was the entire span of service time. About 10 1/3 year all told, plus the late fees and interest that would have accompanied it. This had to be some mind-boggling, record-setting figure because most accounts are shut down after a few months of delinquency. But this one couldn't be, because the landline company didn't know it even existed. The next story is called, "You Want Me to Work Those Times Exactly?" I had a job at a non-profit that ill-advisedly hired a high school teacher as our executive director. I was the development assistant and the volunteer coordinator, which meant I had to be at all fundraising events and events utilizing volunteers. My contract was for 35 hours per week. The first month she was there, we had a 2-day evening performance event with volunteers and a fundraising event on a Saturday. I had to coordinate portions of both events to make sure everything was set, meaning I worked roughly 50 hours per week both weeks. The days were used to prepare everything and the evenings and weekends actually working the events. Under the old management, they gave us free rein to track our hours and flex our time if we worked overtime. As long as we didn't miss meetings and got our work done. Our new boss hadn't made any changes to this policy, so I took it pretty easy for a few weeks to flex out my time, until one day there was an email to go directly to her office once I got in. She berated me for being 45 minutes late when she had an important question to ask me at 8:30. I explained to her that I had a lot of flex time to use up before a big weekend event coming up 2 weeks later, and I was trying to use up my time in a way that didn't impact my work. She wasn't having it. The work hours are from 8 to 3:30, and those are the hours expected. I did as she asked and worked my scheduled hours, still coordinating volunteers and other aspects of the upcoming event during my time. The Thursday before the event, I emailed our business manager, sort of an all-in-one accountant and human resources manager, and told him I had X hours of flex time but had been told not to flex out my time. How should we handle it? He emailed back that he would just add those to my accrued vacation time to be used at a later date. At my Thursday afternoon meeting, I was asked what time I planned to be there each day for the weekend event. I told him that, unfortunately, the boss had instructed me not to flex out my time, so I wouldn't be able to be there for the event. I gave them a list of the volunteers, their assignments and arrival times, and a list of all the vendors I'd been working with along with their arrival times and contact info. I'm not exactly sure what happened after that, but there was definitely a meeting between the boss, business manager, and department managers, after which a policy change ensued that asked employees who require flex time to email a flex time plan to the business manager and the boss when we worked after hours or overtime. But for me it was enough. I quit 3 months later. The third story is called, You Want Proof? This happened about 5 years ago. My boss Bob was a jerk to me on a good day. I was the only woman working in the warehouse. And he always treated me differently, even though my work ethic was no different than my other 2 co-workers. The 2 other guys I worked with called him old-fashioned in the most negative way. But they said that he's old, so they give him a pass. Anyway, when you have a big Irish Catholic family, sometimes you just have bad years where it seems like more people pass away than normal. 2014 was one of those years for me. 2 of my relatives passed away in 2 weeks, and we lost others that year too. But it just so happened that those 2 funerals were on consecutive Fridays. The first funeral was my mum's cousin who passed out of nowhere from a heart attack. We are all surprised and hurt by her passing, and I get the news that her service will be that Friday. So I go to my boss and tell him I'll have to use one of my bereavement days to attend a funeral. This is where his real jerk nature starts to show. He asks me who passed, and I tell him. He then tells me very rudely that if I had even read the employee handbook, I would know that bereavement days are only for the employee's parents, grandparents, and children. I say okay, no problem, sorry I didn't know the policy. I then tell him I'll be taking a vacation day then. He tells me that if I'm requesting a vacation day for a funeral, I have to provide him, not human resources, with a copy of the obituary. Not knowing any better, I say okay. That night, I go home, take a photo of the obit my mother had clipped, emailed it to him, got my day off, and I thought all was well. But that weekend, my aunt passed away. She wasn't my biological aunt, she was actually my cousin's grandmother. But my cousin and I were very close growing up, and we spent a ton of time at each other's houses. This aunt was around a lot when I was growing up, and she passed after battling cancer. I was devastated. I went into work that Monday, a complete emotional mess, and let my boss know that unfortunately, my family had experienced another loss. And that we didn't know yet when the service would be. But I just wanted to let him and my team know that I might have to take another vacation day this week. As I'm telling my boss this, I was crying. And he sort of watches me blurt all this stuff out stony-faced. He just says okay and sends me on my way. Later that day I get an email from him, with a request for a copy of an obituary. I go into his office and tell him I don't have a picture of the obituary in the paper. But I have the funeral agency's website that I can show him since my cousin shared it with me. It also announced that her funeral service would be that Friday. He loses it. He starts throwing these insane accusations at me, like that the aunt has a different last name than me, so clearly I'm not actually related to her and don't know who she is. He said that he won't believe a post about someone I don't even know, and that there was no way he was going to give me 2 Fridays off in a row to go to funerals. He did air quotes at that. What a duck face. It's the beginning of the busy season at the company. And we are swamped, and he says I'm taking this time off to screw over the business and my co-workers because I'm a lazy millennial. He accuses me of making fake posts to try and get a 3-day weekend, instead of just requesting vacation time like a normal human being. I just walked out crying. I'm sad to say I didn't have the mentality then to defend myself, or to tell Bob to go screw himself. Later that day I went and explained to Human Resources what was happening, and she got everything straightened out and I got my Friday off, as a bereavement day no less. But I was angry and upset, and I formulated a plan fueled entirely by pettiness. Firstly, I dug out my childhood photo albums and took out every picture with my aunt, myself, my brother and my cousin. My grandmother loves scrapbooking, so luckily she always took a ton of pictures at family events and gave us disposable cameras all the time. Secondly, I bought a newspaper that had her obituary in it. Third, I took screenshots of her Facebook page, with a ton of people with my last name writing goodbye posts on her wall, including my own post. Then, on the Friday of her funeral, I took an extra prayer card. That following Monday, I went into work with my folder full of memories of my aunt. I made copies of everything on the work copiers, which was a fireable offense at that job, and put it all into a binder that I took from the supply closet for maximum petty points. Then I walked into my boss's office. I had all weekend to think about this epic speech I was going to give him about what a prick he was, but when I got in there, I sadly lost some steam and just awkwardly said, "Bob, I quit. You're a jerk." I put the binder on his desk and walked to my desk, packed my things, and left. I got calls from the human resources lady for weeks asking me to come back, but eventually, I stopped answering her calls. I heard they hired 2 temporary workers for the summer to help out. Even though it was dumb for me to quit with nothing else lined up, I found another job pretty quickly, and I no longer had to work for a complete idiot. I actually really like my boss now. Just this year I found out from a former coworker that company had gone under and was bought by another company. And that my old boss was forced into early retirement because the new company looked through his records and saw he had several complaints about the decades he worked there and decided they didn't want to deal with him. The last story is called, Not That Allergic. This happened a while back before everyone was allergic to everything and there were not a dozen different menus depending on your allergies. I was waiting tables in a 20-table Mexican restaurant and it was early on for dinner at 4. Note, the food there was really good. The restaurant was empty and I was the only server on. A group of 4 walks in, so I seat them. I give them a minute and I come over to take drink orders. I begin my welcome, my name is, and I am cut off. Karens weren't a thing then, but she was a Karen. I have a very specific list of allergies, so I'm going to have to ask a lot of questions. Not a problem. We will make sure to get you a great meal. I'm allergic to nuts, eggs, gluten, which had just become a thing, milk products, soy, MSG, shellfish, and any animal product. Okay, could you slow down? I want to write this down. Growing up, one of my best friends had a peanut allergy. I had seen him have to use his EpiPen a couple of times and that was scary. One of my good friend's sons has celiac and it is also a scary allergy. So I always treat allergies with the utmost importance. She proceeds to list the allergies again, making sure I knew how dangerous any of those things could be to her. I grab some drinks and drop them off. When I do, I am chastised for not bringing out the chips and salsa fast enough. Again, it is around 4 and I am the only one there. I apologize and go grab the chips and salsa. I drop them off. Why didn't you bring the green sauce? Everyone knows you are supposed to get it with the chips. You must be new. Which green sauce, as we have several? And I will have to check to make sure they don't have any products you are allergic to. I don't know what it's called, the green one. Now I know which one she probably wants, as it is very popular and since it is requested quite often, many servers just bring it out with the chips. Do you mean this sauce? Yes. Bring me that one. I go in the back and can already tell how this table is going to go. Going to be run ragged for a couple of bucks. It's becoming clear that she isn't allergic to these items, but just either doesn't like them or likes the attention and sympathy she gets for making a big deal about how she could literally die if she ate some. Time for some malicious compliance. The sauce she wants is very delicious. It's a blend of jalapenos, cilantro, tomatoes, and ranch. But ranch is made with mayo. Mayo is made with eggs. So no sauce. I am sorry. I talked with the chef and that sauce is made with eggs, which was on your list. Oh, that's why I must have gotten so sick the last time I came here. That last server was so stupid to give it to me. Didn't I tell him I was allergic? I could have died. The other diners ask if they could have some of the green sauce. She says she cannot even be around anything she is allergic to, so no green sauce for the table. She proceeds to order the vegetable enchiladas and explain to her friends how hard it is to go out to eat with her condition. I take here to order, go talk to the chef and come back. I explain to her that the vegetables are sautéed with a bit of marinating that contains soy, but I can get them grilled without it. Rice and beans? No, it's cooked in lard and chicken stock. She asks about a vegetarian burrito. The same move, go to the chef and come back. The burrito tortilla is a double no. Gluten and lard. Stuffed peppers? No, with rice again. She is starting to get defeated and her friends are getting visibly annoyed with her shenanigans as they ordered a good 20 minutes ago. There is almost nothing on the menu that fits her needs. Well, what can I have then? I could make a salad with some oil and vinegar dressing? Maybe add some grilled corn, tomatoes, and avocados? Just bring me the vegetarian burrito. I am not that allergic. Madam, you told me earlier that any of your allergies could be your end. I cannot, in good faith, bring you something you have told me could kill you. Do you have your EpiPen? With so many things around you that you are allergic to, I am worried about your health. Fine, just bring me the salad. As I walk away, I hear her mutter that she had it in the past and it has been fine. She is not that allergic. I bring out their food and everyone else has super tasty rellenos, tacos, burritos, etc. And Karen has a super boring salad. Luckily her friends paid and left a good tip. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.